Memphis, 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 Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis.
Welcome to On the Bluff, a Bluff City Media audio podcast. Stepping up to the microphone are your hosts, Gabe Kuhn and Christian Fowler. Now, let's get to the show.
What's up, everybody? We are back, and this is a breaking news episode. But we haven't done this yet. This is kind of the spur of the moment thing. Me and Kenny were both free. Gabe is out of town, so as you can tell, he's not on here. It's me and Kenny right now. No Gabe. We got a big bearded man, but not the same one that you usually see.
Definitely not as good looking as Gabe. Like I wish. I'm a little bit older. Hey, listen, man, I turned 42 in like 7 days, bro.
Yeah, you're old, but that's not the point of the episode. We got to keep. There's a point to this episode. It's not to. It's not to point out Kenny's flaws. So Thursday has been sorry, Kenny, but today has been a huge news day. Most of it negative thus far for Memphis. Yeah. Earlier this afternoon, Caden Priestcorn, who announced earlier this month that he was going to come back, decided to enter his name into the transfer portal. Obviously, a big blow. 607 yards, 9 touchdowns this year in the bowl game on Tuesday. Really became an outlet for Seth Hennigan this year, one of the top tight ends in the country. I think the majority of services that I've looked at that have any kind of rankings of positional players have him inside the top 10. So a huge loss there with him gone, a big weapon gone for Seth Hennigan. And then within, 10 or 15 minutes, Cameron Jackson announces that he's transferring. He also played in the bowl game, was a rotational player his first 2 years. This year became a starter, 6'6", 340, like as pretty much as big of a player as you're going to get in the American Athletic Conference. One of the biggest defensive tackles in the country, a great run stopper. I believe he's a 4-star coming out of high school, originally committed to LSU, ultimately decided to come to Memphis. Didn't play much, like I said, his first 2 years, became a big piece of the defense this year, was figured to be a big piece next year as well. So back-to-back huge losses, and then sandwiched right in between that, Memphis announces that Adarius Jones, Texas A&M, former Texas A&M player, has committed and signed. So it's like, where do we go from there? Kenny, this was kind of a whirlwind, huh?
I mean, it feels like professional free agency today, right? Like that's the world we're living in right now. And it's difficult, especially when, Christian and I understand this as we've covered these guys for years. You definitely get attached to them. And so when you see a guy like Cam Jackson and a guy like Caden Priestcorn leave, it's definitely a disappointing turn of events. We obviously, missed another one in Cam Wright. I think he's wide receiver for University of Memphis. Out of
South Panola down here in Batesville.
Yeah, so, he ended up entering the transfer portal as well. Man, this is as real as it gets, man. This transfer portal has changed the game for college sports. It is a different world out there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at what's happening, we talked about these three guys. Cameron Wright feels more like your traditional transfer, right? Like he didn't get much playing time. He was not a highly regarded guy coming out of high school, but a pretty decent prospect. I think he was in the 700s or 800s at one point and had some pretty good offers. So a good player in high school down here in South Panola, didn't really get much playing time. So like I said, that one makes sense. He's going to probably try to come where he can get on the field. He can find some playing time. But Caden Priestcorn and Cameron Jackson are two of the best players in the conference, bar none. Like, they are both two of the top players. And this is what we've been hearing from coaches over the past several weeks since the transfer portal opened, that this is the norm. This is what we can expect. Like, other coaches are going to tamper. Other staffs are going to tamper. They're going to call kids and be like, hey, if you come here, we got a starting spot for you, and we got huge NIL deals for you as well. And that's the day and age that we're living in right now.
I mean, it's the reality, Christian. Like and it's super easy to press back on that and say we don't like it. Fans wise, like fans don't like the reality of the world that we're living in college sports, but it is the reality. And what is it, that phrase in business? You adapt or you die, right? Like they've been talking about this. Ryan Silverfield, Laird Veach, Adam Walker have been talking about this reality for months now, and it is absolutely necessary for Tiger fans to understand that that's what's going on here. That's what happened. It's tough. It is a tough deal to lose Caden Prescorn and Cam Jackson. Like you said, Caden Prescorn was ranked as what'd you say, top 10 tight end, most productive tight end?
The highest I saw was 6 as far as ranking tight ends for the 2022 season.
In the country, not just in the conference, in the country, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Cam Jackson obviously is a 4-star guy who had a lot of P5 offers and has clearly has that size, that P5 defensive tackle size that teams are looking for, and they are absolutely going to step in and try to take those guys away from the Tigers. The reality of the situation is that this is the reality, and we have to understand that and adapt to that. And that's why as a shameless plug, that's why we exist. That's why Bluff City NIL, Bluff City Media exists. This is why we're here, because we understand that there's a gap. We understand that there is a new reality in college sports, and we want to help fill that gap.
And shift the narrative a little bit, because what are we seeing right now? Nothing but negativity. Like the world is in and we're losing everybody. Like that's the negativity that we're going to see. But it's not as helpless and hopeless as people think it is. That's why NIL is a thing. That's why we exist right now, but to give an outlet for that. So let's put what I believe like the true narrative behind it is, because you'll have people say right now, oh, we're not a Power 5 school. We're not an SEC school. Like we can't compete with these guys. It's not about that anymore. It's not so much about namesake of a school, more so than it is. And it sounds bad, but it's true. Like, where can I go build my brand and be compensated for it? And that's what it is. That's the truth of the situations. You are seeing players now go to smaller schools and go in different, and you kind of sit there and think like, why did they go there? And you can't say without a doubt, but more than likely it's because that's the best NIL deal they were offered. Because some of these smaller schools can save those funds and say, okay, we're going to go after this player. And he may not be a 5-star guy, but he's a higher ranked guy that would more than likely in any other situation end up at a bigger school. So that's what we're seeing now. And you'll have fans, like I said, this is hopeless, helpless, we can't do anything. And that's simply not the truth. At this point in time, and this is the cool part about this, there is an outlet where it can be helped, where this situation can be resolved. And that's, to me, like I said, that's the cool part about it, is that it's not like, okay, we just have to sit here and watch everybody leave for the rest of eternity when it comes to Memphis football. It's just not the case, because there are outlets clearly where are being done to help keep players on campus and to help keep at a specific school.
Let's, we're going to be in just a few minutes. I want to bring on Mark King, who is part owner of Bluff City NIL, Bluff City Media. And I want to bring him in and talk about the business side of things, just because I think while we wanted to spend a few minutes and break this information, break this news, everybody's on Twitter. They already see it. So it's not like we're breaking or giving our reaction to this breaking news. But I think that this podcast could be an opportunity to help answer some questions, alleviate some fears, and maybe have a call to action as we continue to move on past this day where it feels tough, it feels rough, it feels like relatively, if Tiger fans would look at it and say this is kind of hopeless for the Memphis Tigers. I wanted this to be a situation where we can help alleviate some of those fears, answer some of those questions. And I think Mark is going to be a great guy to help us do that. But before we bring him on, Christian, as somebody who has been kind of in front of this NIL legislation and what it is, help us understand, help Tiger fans that are listening to this that might go, what is NIL? Is it glorified McDonald's bags being handed to players? Like, what is NIL and what's the point of it? Help us understand that.
Yeah, so I think there are probably a lot of people that do think that like we just legalize cheating. That's the narrative that surrounds NIL right now. And I get that. I understand that. Like, if you're not informed on it, if you're not educated on it, then you can see like, okay, these schools just wanted to legalize cheating, or the NCAA just wanted to legalize cheating because everyone's already doing it. And really, that's not the case. If you turn the clock back and you look towards that, we all know, a lot of players have been paid to play college sports, but they didn't get anything for it other than the money, right? They weren't able to showcase that money or be able to say, we paid this amount of money and this is what we did for, and this is what we have to show it for. And especially in this modern day and age, right? Like your brand, the way you market yourself is unequivocally important. Like there aren't many more important things to an athlete or someone in a social influence sphere than your brand and how you build it. And so there's never really been opportunities for players to do this before. And now they do have that. And you and I were talking about this the other day. It's what the whole NIL stands for, is your name, image, and likeness. It is your brand. It is the way you portray yourself. It is your social media presence. It is the things that you represent, the things that you are sponsored by. So it allows businesses and outlets to pay these players for services. So in a lot of instances, it's sponsorships. You see all these athletes posting on Instagram now about different products, and that's because they're sponsored by the NIL money. They're being paid by those businesses to represent their product, just like a professional athlete would be. And in our instance, in our case, and obviously I'll let Mark, dive a little bit deeper on this, but we're able to help them tell their stories. We're able to help them kind of share their journey and endear themselves to fans and endear themselves to the program more, because you get to know these people. And you see this with professional athletes all the time. How many documentaries are there about professional athletes, and how good is that for them in most cases? Because you don't make documentaries for the most part to make people look bad. You make it to showcase them, to tell the story, to tell what they've been through, to tell how they got to this point and what their playing career has been like, and things like that. And that's more of our avenue at this point, is like being able to showcase guys and allow them to tell their story. So at the end of the day, in more terms, NIL is to be able to help players showcase themselves rather than put on a helmet or put on a jersey and just go out there and play basketball. And you don't know anything about them. You don't care about them. You cuss them out when they miss a shot or drop a pass. Instead, you're humanizing these players that for so long have just been a player.
Absolutely. I love that explanation, and I think that makes absolute sense. And let's move on from that. And I want to bring Mark in and have Mark kind of share the origin story, a little bit about Bluff City Media, and kind of how we got started, what our role is in the NIL space here in Memphis. And for those of you who don't know, Mark King is alumni of Memphis. We're bringing him on now. Alumni of Memphis, has worked in Memphis his entire career, has a family that lives that's here. He is a born and bred Memphian, and is just an all-around great guy. So Mark, man, thank you for joining us on this little podcast. I know Mark's behind the scenes doing his thing this entire time. This is his first time to ever show up on an actual podcast with us, man. You doing all right?
I'm doing good, man. After that explanation by Christian, I'm not sure why I'm here, but he did an excellent job. So I appreciate you guys having me on. Yeah, I am hopefully not making too many appearances on our podcast to talk about Tigers, but I thought it was an important one to hop on today and talk with you guys about the Bluff City Media and NIL and just how everything works, and hopefully answer any questions that you guys have or I can have for everybody out there to hopefully alleviate some concerns. I think that's important. I think you guys have touched on a lot of really important things already in the show that, people are just unsure. I think that's the biggest thing is people are very unsure about the NIL, about, especially with us, whereas we have sort of a media arm as well as the NIL collective together. So I think people are just unsure about how all these new things go together, and I think a lot of people are unsure how to help. In our recent, kind of polling and talking to people for a long time, I think that's the biggest question, is that people are just unsure how to help right now.
So tell us a little bit about kind of the start of the Bluff City NIL, Bluff City Media, how those two entities coexist together, and kind of the role of each.
Yeah, so we've been working on Bluff City Media and Bluff City NL for quite some time this year. I say this year, it's almost a year now, but for 2022, really since the summer, we've been trying to work on this idea of having a NIL that is also has a media component to it. So, people feel like they're donating something, donating the money and they're getting kind of something back that's worth it. And so we've been working on this for quite some time. And we finally got everything situated, worked out. And we launched just a little over a month and a half ago, maybe. It's not been long, right at this kind of the start of the basketball season as well. So, the Bluff City NIL is one component. It's an NIL collective, just like you would see any other school have an NIL collective where they're taking the money and they are responsible for kind of paying players and brokering deals for players and with players and with businesses that might want to have a social media presence with a certain player, things like that. So the NIL collective really represents the players themselves. So there's an NIL collective, and there's also the media portion. The media portion is really just that. It's just a media portion that covers the Tigers in an unprecedented way. With exclusive access, and that NIL money allows us to be able to provide players with income for their time. If they're going to take time out to be with us on interviews or take time out to be with us on exclusive videos or behind the scenes videos, that NIL allows us to be able to compensate them for that time. I mean, just like anybody else will take time out of their day to do things, we want to make sure that they are compensated in the correct way. And so the immediate portion is really just that. It's Tigers access and Tigers coverage, just like you would see anywhere else from any other big site or media site in the city. So that's kind of how they coexist. The NIL collective needs the media site. We want to be able to represent good things and good items in terms of written content, but also digital content to our fans. But also, we want to make sure that we take care of our players in terms of their time and access that they're willing to give us in the times that they're willing to give us that access.
So if you're
I hope
sitting down,
that covers it. That was a really long explanation. I know that
no,
was
it
long,
was,
but I hope that covers it.
that was perfect. I think you kind of showed the separation between the two. But if you're sitting down with a common fan who doesn't necessarily understand it works, basically thinks it's sanction cheating and that shouldn't be going on, how do you explain the importance of, I guess, first off, how do you explain what it is briefly? And then how do you explain the importance of the NIL as a whole and what we're doing?
Yeah, NIL is a huge part of the game now. I mean, you don't have to look too far from what we're talking about in the news today just to understand the importance of it, really and truly. When it boils down to players are going to want to be compensated for their time. Players are going to be wanting compensated for their name and their image and likenesses. And just like we see in any other sport, they're going to potentially go where they feel like that name, image, and likeness is beneficial to them. And so, we don't have to look very far in terms to see how important it is for what we are able to do with the NLL collective. So, you can look again, just as far as the news today, what we're sitting here talking about together in terms of the football team and transfers. You don't have to look very far to figure out how important it is. But I do understand I think a lot of people are hesitant. A lot of people, like you guys have already mentioned, that we're just legalizing cheating and we're just pretending like these players are that doesn't exist anymore. So, and to that, I would say, these players are putting a lot of time. They put a lot of effort into their craft. They have been honing their skills for a number of years, for their whole life in a lot of these guys' cases. And so, just like any other expert in a field is going to hone their skills for their entire time out there, and they would like to be expected to compensate if you tried to get me to come on one of your podcasts. If I was an expert in that field, I might say, hey, I would like to be compensated for my time that I'm going to take out of my day to be with you, to explain something to you or talk with you about something. So, that's probably one of the best explanations and kind of similarities I can give to people is that I do think that these people, these kids, these players have spent most of their lives crafting this skill and being, let's be real honest, being in the top percent in the world of things people can do that. You look at a guy that gets cut from an NFL team or gets cut from a college team, yeah, he might not be good enough for that team, but he's better than 99% of the world at that particular thing. And so these guys have been spending their entire life honing their craft. And, we want to make sure and that they get compensated for their name, image, and their likeness whenever they do things. And it can be simply as just saying, hey, I want to sell a t-shirt with my name on it. And before they couldn't even do that. Before this, they could never, if they did that, that was the end of their career. And so now it's simply say, hey, I would like to put my face on a t-shirt and I would like to sell it. And that's as simple as it gets right there. Now that's all that they can do. That's all legal, and they can keep the money from those proceeds. Before, they would never even be able to do something like that. So I do think it is really just in terms of explaining to people how that works. It's trying to put it on a level of like it is a skill-based craft that they're doing, and whenever they do those things, if they're going to take their time and they're going to want to profit off their skill set, then I think they should be able to do that.
So help me understand.
So you
go ahead, Christian.
Okay. So you're talking about, like, what you're explaining is the player side of it, and I think that's great because I think you're showing people why it's important for players. How do you alleviate concerns for fans? Because that's what you're saying. People are struggling to see the connection there. There's a disconnect between giving money to an organization and it going to a player. So how do you alleviate fans with their concerns? Like what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, again, I think there are a certain section of people that are probably not going to be alleviated. They just don't understand. They don't agree with the idea that these players should be getting any more than the education they already have. That the education they get is free, and they should be happy with that, and they should go about their lives, and that's fine. I mean, if that's how you think, and that's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. But unfortunately, there's a certain section of fans I think that think like that, and that's unfortunately for them. I can't help them or explain that away. It makes sense to them. I think there's also a lot of section of fans that are maybe unsure, but also just don't know how, or don't know. They might say, hey, if I give my money, it's going to go to us three sitting right here. It's going to go to, the players are never actually going to see that money. Then here at the Bluff City NLL, we have a very strict rule in our documents that explain, almost 80% of the money that comes through our NLL goes to the players directly. And you can, come to your business, you can come here and say, hey, I want to get a certain player on a social media video talking about my business, and we can make that happen. And the 100% of that, whatever you decide on, negotiate with that player, every deal is an individual deal. Whatever you decide to negotiate, that all that money goes to that player 100%. And so, at Bluff City NLL, just like any other place, we have operating expenses, just like anybody else does, just like any other business does. And so once those operating expenses are paid, 100% of the proceeds and money go to the players. I think that is the biggest issue with people who are unsure, is they think that whatever money they give will never actually reach the players. And, Bluff City, I can't say for any other NL collective in the country, I have no idea, but at Bluff City NLL can, say 100% after our operating expenses are covered, that money is going to the players' pockets. And for whatever, particular interview they do, or exclusive video they do with us, or if that's a deal with a business to do some type of social media post, or any of the merchandise that we'll be coming out with soon, all that stuff, all that money goes back to the players' pockets. And I think that's the biggest thing for people to understand, is that the uneasiness is the fact that where does that money go? And I think that's the biggest issue.
So not only are we, with the NIL collective adding it to the equation of what is going, trying to bring to bear some of these ideas for, NIL and help these players out and create content and all that kind of stuff. We also have a media company along with it, Bluff City Media. And I wanted Marcus, the mad genius behind the scenes, making things happen in that regard, just kind of share a little bit about Bluff City Media. Obviously this On the Bluff podcast, Christian's a part of it, a part of Bluff City Media. If you check out the website, he's writing every day. I think he's written 4 articles in 11 minutes. Isn't that what it was today, Christian? Is that a world record?
Wasn't quite that.
Was it a world record? Is that a world record for you?
Yeah.
But kind of explain Bluff City Media and what our goal is at Bluff City Media in terms of covering this team.
Yeah, so my background is actually in digital content, digital marketing, and video production and media. So that's what I do. I own a company that does that as well. So I've been doing that for almost 20 years. So our goal with this Bluff City Media is simple. Our goal is to provide unprecedented coverage to the University of Memphis Tigers like you've never seen before. I think there are a lot of other sites and other people have done good coverage and are still doing good coverage on the Tigers. I think there's a lot of people out there that are writing good pieces and have great articles. And I think, I would encourage everybody to read all those places. I think that's a good idea to have a breadth of knowledge on the Tigers. And I think there are a lot of good people in the city doing great things. I think the component that we're trying to add, and I think the biggest part of us is these, not only these podcasts, but also our videos, our video content, our digital content as a footprint. And so I think you've seen it with the video that we released just, 2 days ago with Jalen Allen and his bowl game preparation. That was a huge video. It was a huge undertaking. We spent all day filming with him. I mean, these videos take a lot to produce. We're talking about, 15 to 16, 17 hours of footage for an 8-minute video. I don't think that people understand how complex it is. And so that kind of video and that kind of content is just a little taste of what we'll be doing in the future with basketball, football, but other Olympic sports as well. So, I mean, our goal is simple. Our goal is to provide unprecedented exclusive access to the Tigers and to the University of Memphis. And so the way we are going to do that will be not only with written content. We have a lot of great writers already, Christian being leading the pack there, and Parrish and Francis. Those guys are great as well and great writers. But again, what will set us apart and what will be the difference in our stuff versus just maybe what others you see around town is our digital content, is our digital footprint. Those videos that we produce that are behind the scenes are, again, these podcasts, which we already have a great lineup of on the Bluff. We already have a great lineup of Tigers on Tap. We have the Will Coleman show coming hopefully soon. And so, I think there's a few more podcasts, a few more shows from other well-known Tigers creators that are out there that will be coming over very shortly. I just can't say anything right now. Can't announce it yet, but soon those people come over. We'll be on Bluff City Media as well. And so, we'll have, hopefully in the next few weeks, maybe within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have a podcast or a video show every day that releases from Bluff City Media. So I think that's kind of one of our difference makers. And I think one thing that people will come to really love about the site.
So Mark, I know we've kind of shot our shot in terms of this is how Bluff City NIL and Bluff City Media is going to be a part of helping alleviate some of these concerns and some of these hopefully not experience days like today where multiple players have transferred out of the program. And it's very clearly NIL related, those kinds of things. But so we've shot our shot in terms of how we want to, how we can be a part of that equation, but who are we targeting? Is this podcast for the big donors out there that everybody always goes to, or who are we trying to reach to say, hey, you can be a part of helping solve this NIL problem for the University of Memphis, and you utilizing our services and what we do, you can be a part of that solution. Who are we targeting, and how can they donate? How can they become subscribers, monthly donors, those kinds of things?
Well, first of all, I will take anybody's money that wants to give it. Let's just be first and foremost. Anybody that wants to give money, we will gladly take it. But yes, there is a certain, there are a ton of big time donors in the city that we all know of. We all know who they are, and they always give money, and that's awesome. And I think that's great. But the university, they really reserve those donors for bigger projects, to be quite honest with you. And that's kind of how the donors work with the event. That's kind of how the scholarship fund works, is they reserve those big donations for projects that they need to be accomplished, and so the NIL, while still being relatively new, doesn't have a big, fund behind it as of right now. But that's changing very quickly. I think the people we are really targeting is just people like us, people that are sitting here. I am a donor at the University of Memphis as well. But I'm a small time donor. I'm a medium-sized, small to medium-sized donor who I went there. I met my wife there in college. We're 20 years ago. Like, it's something that it's close to my heart. And so, I think there are a lot of people out there, like I said before, that don't know how to donate, don't know what to do. So I think we're looking at a lot of people who are in that range of just people who are everyday, people that can afford to donate $100 a year or $500 a year or $5,000 a year, or maybe it's $100 a month or $50 a month or whatever that level is to you that you feel like you can donate. Those are the people that we want to reach. Those are the people that are going to really truly make a difference in this NIL. Those are the people that are going to be the ones to be able to keep players at the University of Memphis or to bring players to the universities because of the NIL opportunities that we have. Those are the people are the ones that are going to make a difference. All the people like us three sitting right here who maybe have $100 a month or $30 a month to give every month so that we can have a fund ready to go. So if those players seek out name, image, and likeness deals and with other businesses, we can make that connection between the player and the business, get the player paid. And they know when they come to the University of Memphis, those opportunities are going to be available. And I think that's the most important thing, is that the people we're concentrating and the people we think, I think a lot of people hear donations and hear donors and they think, oh, well, that's not me. I don't have $25,000 to give. I don't have $50,000 to give. And that's not who we're looking to. That's not who is going to make a difference here. That's not who is going to be able to put money available for the players to be able to get those opportunities. It's going to be people that are just regular people that have mortgages and have kids and all the other things. And so those are the people we're looking at to really make a difference. And you can go to bluffcitynil.com/donate. And that's where all the opportunities are there to go donate. We have donor levels. So if you donate a certain amount of money, you get certain rewards, certain perks. Obviously, the content is available to everyone. But if you donate a certain amount of money, we'll be having networking events with players. Where we're going to be having a bowling party with players. We have a golf tournament with players. We have just events, exclusive events that players come to. So all these things are available to everybody. Just like you and me and Christian. So like all these things are available. So if you give a certain amount of money per year, a certain level, you'll get access to players, tickets, events, all those things. It's all listed on our website at bluffcitynil.com/donate.
So Mark, we really appreciate you coming on, kind of answering some of our questions. We know a lot of other people have these questions and have been looking for clarity on those things. So we appreciate it. I think you did a great job, and people will definitely know more now, one, where to go, why they're going there, and what to do when they get there. So definitely appreciate that. And we'll just wrap it up by reiterating what Mark said. Head over to bluffcitynil.com/donate. If you end up at the main page, donate tabs at the top, click on that, and you can, like he said, check out the sponsorship decks or the donation decks. And go from there. Obviously, we appreciate all the support on the content. Kenny's been working his butt off to pump out some of this video stuff. The Jalen Allen video and interview, I know, was a tough edit for him, and he knocked it out of the park because he's a pro. Also, I think he's got some more stuff coming soon because Kenny never stops working and he never sleeps either. I've talked to him twice this week, and I don't think he slept either one of those nights. But we appreciate all the love and support on the podcast, articles, social media, and everything we're doing. And Kenny, when are we coming back? When's the next live episode of On the Bluff? January 9th, correct?
Yeah, it's going to be January 9th. We're going to be doing another, I think you and Gabe. No. I'm sorry. It's probably going to be me and you on the 2nd, because Gabe's still going to be traveling, going to be doing his thing. But yeah, Christian's dedicated. He's taking all of his gear on the road with him, and we're going to be doing a Zoom. We're going to go back to the Zoom. I know this is what Christian loves. He loves Zoom podcasts, but we're going to go back to it just for this 1 week. But we just felt like we needed to make sure we had a podcast in the wraps for the first week of 2023. We just needed to get it rolling. So
yeah. So I'm leaving for the beach tomorrow, but I'm recording from the beach on Monday. Last Zoom episode, thank God, because I can't stand these Zoom episodes, and Kenny has spoiled me since we went in person. So we'll be back in person on January 9th with Gabe. Monday, you'll be with me and Kenny again, and then we'll roll from there. But we appreciate you guys, and we'll see you back here on Monday.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and a comment wherever you download your podcasts. Head over to www.bluffcitynil.com, where you will find comprehensive coverage of Tiger athletics and how you can become a contributor. We'll see you back here next week.